You can't overcome the feelings that are rising up, Langley, but you can take action despite them. That's a very important distinction that I want each and every one of you to understand. The things that you're feeling, clenching up, feeling like you're not good enough, feeling like you're not ready, doubting yourself, kind of spending too much time thinking about how much time you've wasted, all that's normal that we all do. You cannot overcome those thoughts because they keep rising up and they've become a habit and it's sort of a pattern. So I don't want you to focus on the thoughts. I want you to focus on taking action, even though you doubt yourself. You are gonna feel like an imposter until you push through that clenched up moment over and over and over again. And then suddenly, through action, Langley, you're gonna see that you're not an imposter at all. You're actually the kind of person that pushes through and does what he or she says they are going to do. If you want to be successful in business, if you truly want that side hustle to turn into your full-time thing, you have to learn how to let the feelings of doubt rise up, but take action anyway.
You know, I think it's always part of life to have some knocks as well as some successes,
and to take risks,
and you know, to learn. So I think it's healthy for everyone to lose a job as well as to gain a job.
I'm kind of like a crazy person when I prep. I do timelines and backstories, and I work with a dialect coach and a movement coach and an acting coach, and I need to do a lot before I show up to set so I can throw it all out the window when I get on set. But if I hadn't done all the work beforehand, I would just be too scared to.
Did you watch a lot of footage of Tonya Harding?
I've watched every single piece of footage there is on her 1,000 times over, and I had a voice in my iPod. I'd go to sleep listening to her. I mean, I like lived in Tonya land for a long time.
I tell young people starting out, find something that you love. Find people that you want to work with. Find a company whose ethics and values you subscribe to. And what I always say to people, if you are not entirely comfortable with the people that you're working with and how they are behaving, run, do not walk for the exits.
If you're still saying that to yourself over and over and over again and you're complaining, what you're really good at is ignoring your gut. And so it's time to start tuning into your gut and making some changes.
When I grew up, my dad used to encourage my brother and me to fail. So I would come home from school and sit at the dinner table and my dad would say, "Kids, what did you fail at this week?" And if I didn't have something to tell him, he would be disappointed. So if we weren't failing enough in our home, it meant we weren't trying new things.
I stopped pretending to myself that I was anything other than what I was, and began to direct all my energy into finishing the only work that mattered to me. I was set free because my greatest fear had been realized, and I was still alive, and I still had a daughter whom I adored, and I had an old typewriter and a big idea. And so rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all.
I realize that I need to have a level of focus and a level of intentionality that I have not yet cultivated in my life. That there's still that I do, that I put in the way, that was fine when I was operating and achieving at this level, but now I want to go to this level. And so what are those things? Getting up earlier, being a complete hawk about how I'm spending my time and attention. That in the mornings when I'm with my family, literally being hyper-focused on just them so that I'm present with them. And then confession, I'll literally work for like 25 minutes and then the ADD kicks in and then I'll find myself folding laundry for 20 minutes because I allow myself to get distracted. And see, that's the thing about habits and the levels of success that you get to. That when you recognize that jumping to the next level that you want to get to is nothing more than just tweaking your habits a little bit, that it's really that simple, you will start to be able to have quantum leaps. And I'm realizing that I have amazing habits, but they have gotten me to here. And if I want to get to the next level, it's going to require a level of focus and intentionality that I haven't demanded of myself before. No drinking during the week, being super, super focused on the stuff that's really important. Probably hiring somebody full-time to be a full-time assistant to help me stay organized and focused and in terms of scheduling and weeding through all the incoming requests. I think it's just about that, about this sort of like maniacal focus on things that are important. Like, now is the time. And what's cool is you can make it happen anytime in your life. Like, if there's some jump that you want to make, look, I'm an extraordinarily productive person. I've accomplished a tremendous amount in the last 3 years. But what it's going to take for me to get to the next level and not destroy the people around me with my stress, and be an amazing leader, and be an amazing mother, and be an awesome wife, and actually be an incredible businesswoman, is a level of focus that I have never required of myself.
You're gonna play big, say big. Big. You're gonna play huge, say huge. Huge. You're gonna play ginormous, say ginormous. But first, take baby steps. You're gonna eat the elephant, but take one small bite first, chew it good. Right? We want so much so fast. My grandmother says baby, she starts every sentence with baby. I'm sure it's because she cannot remember all of our names. She said, baby, the best things you'll ever have from grandma will never come from the microwave. They always come from the oven. And I was like, I think somehow she's trying to give me a lesson here. And I realized that the best things that you're gonna create are gonna take time. Build it on cement, not sinking sand. You're gonna get tons and tons and tons of tools here. And you're gonna wanna fast forward. But when you fast forward, you build it on plexiglass, you build it on styrofoam, you build it on wood, you wanna build it on cement. Your dream is important enough to outlive you. Yes, yes? And so I realized that you can't Google download resiliency. You can't Google download tenacity. You can't Google download forgiveness. They're some of the best qualities and characteristics that's going to take you a long way that you need to invest time in and energy in and intention in. You don't just get patience. I want patience. I'm waiting for patience. Somebody's going to piss you off tomorrow. And now you get to test if you have patience. I realized that as I wanted to develop me, I had to be willing to climb, and I wanted to get to the top, and there's no elevator to the top. I gotta do my squats. I gotta work on my quads and my hamstrings and my calves, because I gotta climb to the top. We gotta climb.
And I also know, career-wise, how important it is not to be too highly specialized, especially these days in the world of media. It is crucial to have multiple interests and skill sets, to have tried and possibly failed at many different undertakings. The young people that we hire today at Condé Nast are fearless polymaths, hardworking and passionate, creative and curious.
You want to know what I have learned about myself and what I have learned about every great salesman or entrepreneur I've ever worked with? If you can get in the habit of going through the door without the answer, and our education system tends to make you want to have the answer. If you walk through that door, people are amazingly smart. Once you're in there in hot water, you discover the answer.
I just didn't spend money on myself. I just dumped all the profit back in the business, and we were buying vintage stuff, you know, for years that it costs $5, $10, $15, $50, and you're selling it for, you know, $100, $200, $1,000. I mean, I bought things for $8 that I've sold for $1,000, and that's really good cash flow, right? I didn't know what that word even meant, you know, but it was just like, it looked really good, just like building in the bank.
Well, I'm very driven by what I do. I am certainly very competitive. What else am I? Needy? I'm probably very needy, yes. A bitch.
Perfectionist?
Perfectionist.
Well, let's try bitch first.
Well, I hope I'm not. I try not to be, but I like people who represent the best of what they do, and if that turns you into perfectionist, then maybe I am.
Shame is far more likely to cause destructive behaviors than it is to cure it. What we know is that shame is highly correlated with addiction, violence, aggression, bullying. It's not helpful to be ashamed for this reason, and I think this is really a core thing that we need to get our heads and hearts around as a culture. Shame corrodes the part of us that believes we can change. So to shame someone into changing is like saying to them, you are horrible and worthless and you're not capable of change, get better. I have interviewed over 600 men and women now across the country about shame, and across the interviews, men and women with high levels of resilience to shame share 4 things in common. The first is they physically recognize when they're in shame and they know what triggered it. So let's say something happens at work, I make a mistake or something happens, and that warm wash comes over me. You know, that feeling, yes, yeah. We all know it. If I can physically say, oh my God, no, this is shame, I'm in shame, it's very helpful because we are not fit for human consumption when we're in shame. Okay. We need to pull away and get regrounded, take some deep breaths, and figure out how to respond. One of the things that makes shame worse is normally when we're in it, we act out. For example, the mother that I interviewed, she fills her car up, she goes into the gas station. She goes to pay. Her credit card's declined. The man shames her in front of the other patrons, makes her leave her, I think, her wedding band and her wallet and leave with just an ATM card. So she's filled with shame. She gets in the car, she slams the door. When she slams the door, it wakes up her 3-year-old toddler who's in the back seat, who starts screaming. What happens next? She starts screaming back, shut up, shut up. Right. So now she's in the shame of having this credit card declined, being belittled in front of people, and now having to deal with the struggle of I'm a horrible mom and why am I taking this out of my child? So men and women with high levels of resilience recognize physically when they're in shame and what triggered it. Okay. Then they practice critical awareness. How realistic are the expectations and messages that we put on ourselves or that others put on us that tell us who we're supposed to be? The third thing is men and women with high levels of resilience reach out. We've got to share our story.
So they talk about it.
They talk about it. You know, we breathe through it, we recognize we're in it, and then we call and say, hey, Patricia, it's me. You're not going to believe what happened. Can you listen? It's hard. And then we speak shame. You know, I try to explain to people the importance of using the word shame. And this is not just lay people. This is mental health professionals. Right. You know, we've got to use the word. It's different. If I were to call you and say, oh, Patricia, it's Brene, I'm so embarrassed. That would mean one thing, right? But if I were to call you and say, Patricia, it's Brene, and I'm really struggling with some shame, that's different.
Yeah, it's a different conversation.
Right. Shame cannot hold on when we name it.
Right.
So it's not just, you know, an academic pet peeve. I want everybody to get the semantics correct. Men and women with high levels of shame resilience use the word and talk about the emotion.
I can tell you why. The reason why they don't make changes is because what happens is you say, okay, I want to do X. And then immediately what you see next are all the obstacles. And so you're actually smart. You're not necessarily afraid. You're smart because you think, how the hell am I going to go from being a lawyer to a carpenter when I have a mortgage to pay? I've got tuition bills to go. My wife is going to kill me if I make this kind of change. And so you get stuck because you see obstacles. And then you never do anything.
It took a couple months to realize. I mean, I was 17 at the time. I just finished high school 2 months earlier. And I'm now living in Melbourne. I mean, I was playing catch up really quickly anyway. I was living on my own in a new city where I'd never met anyone, 2-hour flight away from anyone I knew, and I had no money, and I was just trying to find couches to sleep on at that point. Plus, before you're 18, you can't sign up and get electricity bills and stuff like that, so no one would rent a place to me. I didn't have any money. The whole thing was I was just trying to keep my head above water at that point. And then once it settled in, I kind of got settled there, and I was working constantly. Then that's when I thought oh, yeah, I've seen people make the jump from here to America. So my choices are either stay on, be good enough to stay on this show for decades, the way some cast members have, which, you'd have a lovely life in Melbourne, or you screw it up and you get fired, which I obviously didn't want to take that option, or try and make the transition to the American industry, try and move to LA and do pilot season, as I had seen a few cast members do at that point. So that was my goal.
Any fear when you made the flight?
Yes, but it wasn't as scary. Yes, definitely, but it wasn't as scary as that first move to Melbourne. That first move to Melbourne was terrifying because I was just, like I said, I didn't have money at the time. I didn't I didn't know anyone. At least when I moved to LA, when I did that flight to LA, I knew 2 people there already who had already been on Neighbours, and I had my money saved. So if anything went really wrong, I knew I could afford to get in a cab, drive to the airport, and buy a ticket home. And so that's all I needed to know. I was cool, I'm sweet. Whatever happens, if anything goes really wrong, I can always afford to fly home. It'll be fine.
And did it ever, once you got here, did it ever seem like anything was going really wrong, or?
yeah, there's obviously like the ups and downs and like the crazy, as anyone who's moved to a new city before, I'm sure they've had crazy experiences, so I had all that for sure. But no, it was fine. It would have had to take a lot to make me fly home. I was like, I will not be a failure. I came here and I'm not going home until I've made it in this business.
So let's talk about Starbucks. Starbucks in 2008, very interesting thing happened, and many of you, if you were in the financial services market then, probably know this, that their net income decreased by about 28% that year. And at the time, they had 16,000 stores in 44 countries, and they had gone through this massive, explosive growth segment in terms of going public in, I think it was like 1992, they only had 125 stores, and now here we are, 2008, they've got 16,000. So what ends up happening is Howard Schultz, who was the chairman of the board, comes back in as the CEO. Very complex situation, right? You've got operations in 44 countries. You've got massive reduction in terms of the profits that you have. You've got the stock market and Wall Street screaming at you. You've got customers that are going to Dunkin' Donuts because there's a recession that's hitting. So what do? Well, he was very clear, again, back to the 2 rules. What do I stand for? Like, what am I doing? And what do I want the outcome to be? So he was very clear that what he stood for as a leader and what Starbucks should stand for is the Starbucks experience. He wanted to go back to the beginning and reintroduce people to the romance of having a cup of coffee. Because that's how Starbucks launched in the beginning, that he was traveling and was over in Italy and was like, God, why don't we have places like these great stops to have a little cup of coffee over in the United States? Boom, Starbucks, an idea, it's born, it's launched. So he decides he's gonna do whatever he can to get the romance of having a cup of coffee back. In life, in any situation, whether you're talking about growing your company, growing your bank account, getting in a relationship, getting out of a relationship, getting something done at the school system that your kids are going to on behalf of your kids, whatever it is that you're up to in life, this is the only question that you need to ask yourself. Well, what is it that I want? Because the truth of the matter is, if you can answer that, you can have it.
I haven't actually been given a piece of advice that I can recall right now, but I guess when anyone asks me, like, what should I do? I'm just like, just do anything. Anything will lead to something else, and you just got to get out there and take a chance. Even if it's unpaid work, whatever it is, it will lead to something better, so do everything.
Do everything.
Yep, do it all.
What is your best piece of advice for the next generation's influencers?
I think it's really to be true to yourself and listen as much as one is able to other people whose opinions you respect and look up to, but in the end, it has to come from you, and you can't really worry too much by looking to the left or to the right about what the competition might be doing or other people in your field might be doing. It has to be true vision.
We're resistant of having the tough conversations in our female relationships, in our relationships in general, in life, with our parents, whatever it is, because we're not used to that spike in emotions, because it feels like it's this tidal wave coming at us.
End of the world feeling.
Totally. Yeah. But what happens is, and I just had one of the toughest conversations in my life with my mother like 2 weeks ago, and it's this spike, right? It's like I had to do the Mel Robbins like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, no lie. Like I was like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, dial, or you're never doing this.
Yeah.
Like I was like wanted to throw up. So it's a tidal wave, but what happens is the second you start getting it out, it's literally 30 seconds to a minute, it clears and you're on the other side.
It feels so much better when you're done.
So much better.
Biggest weight.
Even 30 seconds in though. So it's just that first spike of beforehand that it's like all the resistance is right here, right now. You guys, if we would start having these tough conversations more often, your whole life changes. Like your entire life changes and things just start coming to you, because it's all about understanding that we are all so different. We're bringing in a million different things from our past, and we're bringing it into this moment right now, and we don't even know it. Like everything I'm perceiving about you is because of what I've perceived from my past. And it's not until I verbalize how I feel, if something's a block with me, that you would ever even know that, maybe tall men scare me.
Sure.
But for real.
For a lot of women it does.
And I'm just being honest.
Yeah, no, for a lot of women, yeah.
They don't scare me. But I'm just saying, anything simple like that
Yeah.
we're bringing into the moment. And there's so many things, you know, layers that we don't even realize we're showing up as, or we're carrying with us, that is blocking a connection if you're not speaking. The idea of having tough conversations, you know, this reflects even in business for all of us. It's like we're scared to have these tough conversations. We're scared to hurt people. We're scared to say how we feel because we could really, you know, what if we're not friends anymore? We think that we're supposed to have these friends and they're supposed to be our lifelong friends. And that is a huge disempowering belief as well.
Because you got to hold on to something that maybe is 10, 20 years outdated. Or that no longer serves either of you.
Yes. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of women who are like, yeah, but these are the women who I grew up with and I was in a sorority with. I'm like, you're never going to move forward. You're carrying all of them back here and you're evolving and becoming a new person. Like every single day, if we're doing it right, we should have someone say to us, you know, you've changed. I'll be like, heck yeah, hallelujah, because I'm growing. I want to become a different person. And I think we're dragging all of these people behind us. And we're dragging all of these stories and all of this stuff. And we're showing up and we're exhausted and we're trying to meet each other. And we're like, oh my God, that's in the women who are maybe doing the work or who are really ready to connect. If you're carrying all that, they're not ready to connect with all of that either.
Get up 30 minutes earlier than you normally do and push yourself to work on the most important priorities first. This isn't just me. Research shows that your most productive hours are the first 2 to 3 hours after you wake up and get ready. This means that for peak productivity, you've got to do whatever you can do to make sure the most important work to you gets done first during that window of time.
Honestly, I think everyone is different and unique, and that's a good thing. It's not bad. It's kind of the best thing in the world. You don't want to be like everyone else. Growing up in high school and just junior high, just your whole life, really, either you have been taught to feel like, or you want to be like everyone else because conceptually you'll be included and you'll be like the crowd. But when you think about it, when you look at people like Lady Gaga, who is so crazy and so different and so unique, and her whole message is about, you know, being yourself and being okay with it. And the reason she is so successful and so is because she's talented, because she's different. If she was just like Britney Spears, or if she was just like Nina Dobrev, then there would be two of us, so there'd be nothing special about that. So I think what's special is the fact that you're different, and is the fact that you're unique, and that you can bring something to the table. So if anything, embrace that uniqueness and that thing that you have that no one else does, and expand upon it and make it better and tell everyone about it and be confident in it. Because if you're confident and happy and smiling, you will attract confidence, happiness, and laughter.
I went from zero, never had been paid for a speech, to literally the most booked woman in the world in 3 years flat.
Crazy.
And there's a number of reasons why. Number one, the content's terrific. I'm also a really good public speaker. There's not a lot of women on the circuit, but more importantly, I behave in a way because I know that the number one asset in business is make the people you're dealing with know that they matter. Take care of everybody you deal with, everybody. The event planners, the speaking bureaus, everybody has something that they're worried about. You get rid of the worry, you make them feel like they're important. Everybody wants to be around you. Because at the end of the day, we all want to know that we matter. So if you do business with people that make you feel good, you want to do more business with them. And so it's a really, really simple thing. I call it, my philosophy about human beings is just be a fan. Just cheer for everybody. There's so much success to go around. People have really difficult lives. They make things really hard for themselves. Make their life easy. Make them feel great. Give them a hug, smile, compliment them. Be generous. Don't be a pain in the ass. Like literally, it's that simple.
I started working out of my apartment with a team of 2 who helped me turn my concept into a reality around my kitchen table for 2 years. Like most startups, we had to fundraise. I asked a lot of people I knew to invest, including some people who didn't have a tremendous amount of money. So I told them, only invest if you're prepared to lose it. I was so scared. In the end, over 100 people invested. With that money and a personal investment, we set up an office in Hong Kong for sourcing and production.
Whenever you start feeling in your life like, oh my gosh, is this all there is?
Huge red flag number one. Number two, when you spend your energy being jealous or having the grass is greener over there, another big wake-up call for you that you're ready for a change. And then the other final red flag is if you're spending your life waiting to be happy. I'll be happy when? I'll be happy when I get married. I'll be happy when I change my job. I'll be happy when I launch a business. It's time to change now, because that moment's not coming unless you make it come.